Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear student, our topic today is to discuss the physiology of the refractive media of the eye and image formation. We will talk about the refractive media of the eye and image formation. To understand this point, let us first to know what's meant by vision. To understand with what's meant by vision, okay, there is or this is an object, okay. From this object, rays of light will pass through a specific media or transparent media inside the eyeball or inside the eye or your eye to form an image of what? An image of the object in the retina. And this image, okay, is transformed or transmitted from the retina to the cerebral cortex to be interpreted in the cortex. So vision, simply we can define the vision simply as a complex process through which an image of the external environment is formed on the retina of the eye, and this image is conducted as a nerve impulse to the brain where it is interpreted and recognized. So the vision consists of two parts. The first part, this is the formation of the image, okay, on the retina, and second part, this is called the transmission of the impulse, okay, through a specific pathway called visual pathway. Okay, in this lecture I will discuss or how the image is formed, in our retina, by the help of a specific system or apparatus or media in your eye called refractive media. Called what? Refractive media. Please, first I will revise with you the organ of vision, which is the eyeball. The eyeball, as we know, nearly spherical structure, consists of wall and cavity. The wall consists of 3 layers. Okay, the outer layers consists of anterior transparent part called the cornea and posterior opaque part called the sclera. So the outer layer is the cornea and the sclera. And then the middle layer consists of iris and ciliary body. Anterior part, this is the iris. Middle part, this is the ciliary body. And finally, the choroid. Iris, ciliary body, and the choroid. Okay, and the pupil, as we can see here, is aperture or opening present in what? Present at the center of the iris to allow the light rays to enter or to reach our retina. The inner layer or the innermost layer in our eyeball, this is the retina, and this retina is is called photosensitive film. And on this retina, the image is formed, as we can see later on. Okay, so this is the layers of the eyeball, and the second part beside the wall, the cavity. We have two cavities in our eyeball: the vitreous body or vitreous chamber, okay, or vitreous cavity, and then the aqueous chamber cavity or aqueous humor chamber or cavity. Between the aqueous chamber and the vitreous body, we have a transparent structure called lens. Okay, this is briefly the structure of the eyeball. So, what about the stimulus for the vision? The stimulus for vision is a light. The stimulus for vision is what? Is light. What about the light? The light, as we can see here, is a part of electromagnetic radiations. This is the visible light. The visible light is a radiant form of energy, consists of electromagnetic radiations. Its wavelength, the wavelength of the visible light for the human body from 400 to 750 nanometers. This is the visible or the wavelength of the visible light. Okay, the velocity of the light in the air about 300,000 kilometer per second, or we can say 300 million meter per second. 300 million per second. But it's much slower in other transparent media, like the liquids, like in the glasses, about 200,000 kilometers per second or 200 million meter per second. This is the speed of the light in the air and other medium. What about the physics of light? When the light transmitted from one medium to another medium or strike another surface, it may be number one, reflected like this, reflected or return back, and this is occur in white object. All white object refract all the light, and or maybe absorbed by the black object. This is usually done by the black object, or transmitted through the object with or without refraction, with or without what? Refraction. Okay. What is meant by refraction of the light? Refraction of the light means when the light pass from one medium to another transparent medium, pass with what is called inclination or refraction. This is called refraction, and this refraction, okay, the refraction of light depends upon two factors. Number one, the incidence angle. The incidence angle. What's meant by incidence angle? This is the incidence angle. If the incidence angle is right angle or 90 degree, no refraction for the light occur. But if it is acute, like our case here, okay, it will be reflected, it will be refracted. So the refraction of light depends upon two factors. Number one, the incidence angle. If it is right incidence angle, no refraction. If it is acute, there is a refraction. This is number one. Number two, the refractive index. Refractive what? Refractive index. The refractive index. What's meant by refractive index? The refractive index is the ratio between is the ratio of the velocity of the light in the air and the velocity of the light in the medium or substance. For example, what about the refractive index? Okay, in air, the velocity of, as we know, the velocity in of the light in air, 300 million meter per second. Okay, this is the velocity of light in air. Okay, and the velocity of light in air, I want to know the refractive index of air. Okay, 300 by 300, I think about 1. So the refractive index for air is 1, because the velocity of air in light is the same the velocity of light in air. In glasses, it is 300, the velocity of light in air 300 million meter per second, but in glasses 200 million per second, 200 million. So when we divide 3 by 2, I think 1.5. So the refractive index for glasses is 1.5. For the water, about 1.33. This is number one. Number two, again, two factors affect the refraction of the light. Okay, when it passes from one medium to another. The first one, this is what? The first one, this is the incidence angle. If it is right, no refraction. If acute, there is a refraction. Number two, the refractive index of the medium. The refractive index of the medium for the air is 1, for the glass is 1.5, for the water is 1.3. Okay, if the light pass from a low refractive index like the air, which is 1, to a high refractive index like the glasses, 1.5, it will be refracted near to what's called the normal. Okay, so in this condition, the medium will act as what? Will act as a convex lens. Convex lens means converging lens. Converging lens. Okay, but if it come from a water, for example, to air, the water has a high refractive index and the air low refractive index. It will be reflected away from the normal. Away from the normal. Away from the normal means this interface will act as a concave lens. What's meant by concave lens and convex lens? Let us to know this about the refraction of the light through the convex lens. This is the convex lens. We have number one, principal axis. What's meant by principal axis? This is the nodal point. This is the nodal point. Okay, and this is the parallel rays or the rays of the light. Okay, when the light pass through a convex lens, it will converge to a point behind the lens called a focus or focal point. Okay, and this is a point present in the lens called nodal point. Any light passing through the nodal lens will pass without refractions. The distance between the focal point and the nodal point in the lens, this is called focal length. Again, the focal length, okay, is the distance between the nodal point and the focal point. Okay, this is the refraction of light in in convex lens. In concave lens, okay, this is the needle point. When the light passes through a concave lens, it will diverge. Diverge means it has a virtual, not a real or actual focus in front of the lens, not behind the lens. So the convex lens act as a positive lenses, but the concave lenses act as a minus lenses. So what's meant by refractive power? Refractive power means we can measure the refractive power by this formula or these equations. Okay, we can say the refractive power for any lens is 1 by focal length in meters. Okay, and this is the diopter. For example, okay, so the power or the strength of the lens is measured in what's called diopters. Okay, so if the length of a lens having a focal length of 10 centimeters, 10 centimeters means 0.1 meter. So when we divide 1 by 0.1, it will be 10 diopters. So 10 diopters means, okay, means 10 diopters or plus 10 diopters. Plus what? 10 diopters. So this is a convex lens. This is a convex lens with a power of 10 diopters. With what? A power of 10 diopters. So the power is measured by a diopter. So plus 5 diopter, like our case. 5 diopter, like in our case, means this is a convex lens. This is a convex lens, okay, which convert the light to a point called focus behind what? Behind the lens. Behind the lens, okay, and the distance between this point and the nodal point is called focal length. Okay, so this is the refractive power of that. What about the type of lenses? Okay, the lenses may be a convex or concave lenses, okay, and may be spherical or cylindrical. What's meant by convex or concave? Look for this diagram. The convex lens means the lenses, okay, which convert the light or converge light to a point called focal point. The distance between the focal point and the nodal point, this is called focal length. Focal length. So the convex lens are plus or positive lenses. Positive lenses. But the concave lens converge the light to a point in front of the lens, and this is called what? This is called, okay, diverging lens or minus lens. So the convex are positive, but the concave are what? Are negative. Because this are diverging, but the convex are converging. What about the spherical or cylindrical? Spherical lenses means the lens which is a part of cylinder, okay, a cylinder, but the spherical is a part of a sphere. This is a part of a sphere, the spherical, and the cylindrical a part of cylinder. What's the difference between them? The the spherical lens will converge the light into a point. Will converge the light into a point, okay, but the cylindrical lens converges the light into what's called a plane, not a line, not a point, not what? To a point. So back to our main topic. This is the refractive media of the eye. The refractive media of the eye, as we can see here, look for this diagram. This is an object, okay, this is the object. The image that will be formed on the retina is a small inverted image, as we can see here, which make a small inverted image because the light, when the light passes through the transparent media in the eye, okay, it will be refracted to form a small inverted image. What about the refractive media? We have 4 refractive media in our eye. The first one, this is a cornea, having a refractive index 1.38, and the refractive power is plus 39 diopters. The aqueous humor, having a refractive index 1.33, okay, and the lens or the crystalline lens having a refractive index of 1.4 with a power plus 20 diopters, okay, and the vitreous body having a refractive index 1.34. This is the refractive media of the eye. So the refractive media of the eye, we have we have a cornea, then aqueous humor, then the lens, and finally the vitreous humor. Okay, as we can see here, the total power of the eye is plus 39 diopters plus and plus 20 diopters. So the total refractive power of the eye is plus 5 or 59 diopters. So the power or our eye act as a convex lens. Act as what? A convex lens with a refractive power of what? Plus, okay, 59 diopters, plus 59 diopters. This is the refractive power. About 70% of the refractive power is due to the cornea, and 30% is due to what? Is due to the lens. Is due to the lens. Okay, again, when the light come from a medium with low refractive index like the air to a medium like the cornea which has a high refractive index, it will be converged or will be refracted to the focal point. So in this condition, this medium act as a convex lens. But when the light comes from a medium of high refractive index to a medium of low refractive index, it will be divergent. It will be what? Divergent. So this is act as a refractive, as a concave lens. Okay. Let us first to start with the cornea. Okay, and the outer layer of the eyeball. We have two parts, the cornea and the sclera. Let us to know the function of the cornea and the function of sclera. What about the cornea? Histologically, the cornea represents the anterior transparent one-sixth of the cornea. Its diameter is about 11 millimeters, and its thickness is 1.0 millimeter in thickness. Consists of 5 layers. The outer layer, this is the epithelium, then the basement membrane, this is the Bowman's membrane. The Bowman's membrane, again epithelium, Bowman's membrane, stroma or substantia propria, basement membrane, and endothelium. This is the layers of the cornea. What about the metabolism of the cornea? We need the corneal metabolism for production of ATP or production of energy, and this energy is important for maintaining of the dehydration and the transparency of the cornea. What about the sources for the substrates for the energy? From the tear, the tear can supply the oxygen. The aqueous humor can supply the glucose. The blood vessels present at the corneoscleral junction will provide to the cornea oxygen and the glucose. Okay, you know, the cornea contains ascorbic acid and glutathione, which act as a hydrogen acceptor in anaerobic metabolism. This is the corneal metabolism. This is what? The corneal metabolism. And the sources of energy, the source of oxygen and source of glucose. For the corneal metabolism. What about the causes of transparent cornea? The cornea is transparent due to many factors, anatomical factors and physical factors. The anatomical factors is related to the regular and uniform arrangement of the epithelial cells and lamellae, the absence of blood vessels and myelinated nerve fibers. The physical factors are related or are due to, number one, the refractive index of the various layers of the cornea is the same. So no refraction occur. Number two, because the refractive index, as we said before, is one of the factors which affect refraction or no. If the light is transmitted from a medium with certain refractive index, then pass to another medium with another refractive index, it will be refracted. Okay. because the refractive index for all layers, 5 layers of the cornea is the same, so no refraction occur. Number 2, the relative corneal dehydration. What's meant by relative corneal dehydration? Dehydration means removal of the water from the cornea by what's called osmotic pump and metabolic pump. This is the physical factors. Again, the causes for the transparent cornea, this is anatomical factors and physical factors. Anatomical factors and what? And physical factors. We must maintain the transparency of the cornea to allow the light to enter what? To enter your eye. This is need vitamin E, which is important for the healthy epithelium anywhere in your body. Number 2, vitamin B2 or riboflavin, because it is needed for the anaerobic metabolism. You need moistening of the corneal surface by the precorneal tear film or tear film. You need what's called the osmotic pump by the endothelial metabolic pump in the endothelial layers or endothelial cells to maintain what? To maintain the corneal transparency or to prevent corneal overhydration or hydration and the cloudiness of the cornea. This is the causes or the factors that maintain the transparency of the cornea and the causes which affect or cause the cornea transparency. What about the function of the cornea? The cornea has 4 main functions. Number 1, it is a transparent. What's meant by transparent structure? It allows the passage of the light through it to enter your eye to reach the retina. Number 2, it has what's called a regular curvature. You know here, okay, you can see here the curvature of the cornea is the same. So any light rays passing through this meridian, okay, or this meridian or plane will be converged to a point. So the regular curvature of the corneal surface will help formation of what's called sharp, clear image on your retina. Okay, look for this. Here the surface of the cornea is not irregular. Okay, this irregular curvature for the cornea will form 2 images, one in front of the retina and one behind the retina. So number 1, it is a transparent to allow the passage of the light. Number 2, has a regular curvature which will form a sharp image or sharp clear image. Number 3, the cornea has or act as a powerful convex lens. Its power from plus 39 to 43 diopters, or having 70% of the total diopteric power, and this is a fixed power. What meant by fixed? Fixed means no change. Okay, and this is the main interface or the main side for the refraction of the eye. Number 4, it protects the inner structures by its fiber structure, absorb the ultraviolet rays that fall on your eye, okay, to protect your retina from the ultraviolet rays. Number 3, if you touch the cornea by any foreign object like the cotton or piece of cotton, it will produce a reflex blinking of both eyes to protect the eye. This is called corneal reflex. Again, the cornea has 4 main functions. Number one has it is a transparent. Number 2, has a regular curvature. Number 3, act as a powerful convex lens. Number 4, protective functions. What about the corneal reflex? If you touch the cornea by a piece of cotton, it will send afferent impulse along the trigeminal nerve to reach the bone or pontine center of the corneal reflex, which will send an efferent impulse along the facial nerve to make contraction for the orbicularis oculi to make a closure of the eye. This is the corneal reflex. Okay. The second part of the outer layer, this is the sclera, and the sclera constitute the posterior opaque or white 5/6 of the outer layer of the cornea. They are covered by what's called conjunctival membrane, and normally it is whitish in adult and bluish in infant, and this is the normal conditions. It is opaque due to irregularity of its fibers. What about the function of the sclera? You know the function of sclera has 2 main functions. Number 1, it protects the inner structures of the eyeball. Number 2, it gives attachment for the extraocular muscles, and as we can see in the diagram. This is the sclera. One of the refractive media of the eye, the intraocular fluids. The fluid in front of the lens and the fluid or the gelatinous material behind the lens. The fluid in front of the lens is called aqueous humor. Okay, what's meant by aqueous humor? As we can see here, this is the aqueous humor present in the chamber. This is the cornea, and this is the lens. And this chamber in front of the lens is called the aqueous chamber. And this chamber consists of two chambers. One between the iris and the lens is called the posterior chamber, and second between the iris and the cornea, this is anterior chamber. So in the anterior chamber and the posterior chamber, you have a fluid. This fluid is a transparent, colorless alkaline fluid called aqueous humor, and fill the anterior and the posterior chamber of the eye. Okay, this is the aqueous humor. Okay, what about the mechanism of formation? This fluid is continuously formed by the ciliary epithelium, and this is the ciliary epithelium, okay, by facilitated diffusion and active transport mechanism. The sodium is secreted mainly by active transport. Chloride and bicarb and water follow it passively. The rate of its formation from 1 to 2 microliter per minute. This is the rate of formation for the aqueous humor. What about its composition? It is nearly protein free, or its protein content is very low, about 100 to 200 milligram per liter. The concentration of the sodium is high compared to the plasma. The vitamin C concentration is high compared to the plasma, about 10 to 20 times. The bicarb concentrations is also higher than the plasma. Why? To neutralize the lactic acid, which are produced by anaerobic oxidation for the avascular structures. What is meant by vascular structures? The structures which have no blood vessels, including the cornea, because the cornea and the lens are avascular structures. So the metabolism for this avascular structures is anaerobic, not aerobic, and this anaerobic metabolism produce what is called lactic acid. So to neutralize the lactic acids, you need a bicarb to neutralize this. So this is the function of the aqueous humor. Again, the function of the aqueous humor is an nearly protein-free, has a high plasma sodium, vitamin C is high, and bicarb concentrations is high. The balance between its formation and its drainage is responsible for formation of what's called intraocular pressure. Again, the intraocular pressure, the pressure inside the eye is formed by the balance between the rate of formation and the rate of drainage. What's meant by the formation of the drainage? As we can see here, it is formed by the ciliary epithelium, then pass between the fibers, which are called suspensory fibers or suspensory ligament of the lens, then into the posterior lens, then via or through the pupil to the anterior chamber, and from the anterior chamber it passes to or go to the iridocorneal angle or filtration angle. From this angle it will pass to what's called spaces of Fontana, canal of Schlemm, and episcleral vein, and finally reach to the systemic vein. So the balance between its formation and its drainage is responsible for the pressure inside your eyeball or intraocular pressure. Okay, this is the circulation. So what about the function of the aqueous humor? The aqueous humor, number one of the refractive media of the eye. This is the first function. Number two, it nourish or supply the nutrients like the glucose for the avascular structures, including the cornea and the lens. Number three, buffer the acid present or produced by anaerobic metabolism for the cornea and the lens. Number three, has a mechanical function. It keeps the eye rigid, the eyeball rigid, to maintain its refractive power. And finally, it maintains the intraocular pressure. Constant by means of its steady means continuous or sustained formation and sustained drainage. The balance between the drainage and formation is responsible for formation of what is called IOP or intraocular pressure. Okay. The second chamber present behind the lens, this is a vitreous body. As we can see here, this is a space between your lens and the vitreous body. This is called retrolental space. And here, this is a lymphatic canal called the hyaloid canal, and this is the capsule. This is the vitreous body. What about the function of the vitreous body? Number one of the refractive medium. Number two, support the retina in its position. And finally, support the lens and prevent its falling back and prevent its what? Falling back. This is the main function of what? Of the vitreous body. This is the main function of the vitreous body. Okay. And finally, it maintains the spherical shape of the eye. Maintains the spherical shape of the eye. These are the function of the vitreous body. Okay. What about the middle layers? Okay. Before talking about the last refractive media of the eye, which is the lens, we should know something about the middle layers or uveal tract. The medial layer, the middle layer or uveal tract of the eye consists of anterior part called the iris, followed by the ciliary muscles, and then the choroid. What's the function for each part? Number one, the iris. This is the iris. Okay. The iris, as we can see here, contain an aperture or opening inside it. This is called the pupil. And the iris contains two kinds of muscles which constrict it, called constrictor pupillae, and another muscle called pupillary dilator muscles or dilator pupillae muscles. What about the function of the iris? Number one, the function of the iris is to prevent or the pigment present in the iris absorb all light rays which enter the eye except those passing through the pupil. It absorbs any light here or here and allow only this light to pass, okay, or to reach what? To reach the retina. Number two, it prevent what's called spherical and chromatic aberrations of the eye. What's meant by spherical and chromatic? Look for this. This is the crystalline lens or the lens of our eye. You know, one of the errors or mistakes or aberrations which occur due to the passage of the light through any lens. Number one, spherical aberrations. What's meant by spherical aberrations? The refractive power of the periphery of the lens is not the same like the center. The center power or the power in the center is low compared to the periphery. So any light falling on the peripheral part of the lens will converge to a near point, and at the center of the lens will converge to a far point. This is called spherical aberrations. This spherical aberrations make the image you can see is a blurred image, not clear image. Okay. And the second, this is called chromatic aberrations. What's meant by chromatic aberrations? You know, the peripheral part of the lens act as a prism, and this prism analyze the light into its original colors. Analyze the color, the light into its original color. In this condition, which is called the chromatic aberrations, the image you see will be surrounded by a colored halos, and this colored halos will also impair or make the image is clear or unclear. Okay. What about the iris? The iris will prevent falling of the light on the peripheral part of the lens, so prevent the spherical and the chromatic aberrations. So the iris prevent the light falling in the peripheral part, so it prevents spherical and the chromatic aberrations. Look for this. Okay, it prevent the development of spherical and chromatic aberrations. This is the spherical aberrations. This is the chromatic aberrations. Okay, it prevents the light falling on the periphery and allow it on the to fall on the center, so it prevent the spherical or chromatic aberration. The function number 3 for the iris, it regulate the amount of light which enter the eye, so regulate the size of by regulating the size of the pupil. Also, the constriction of the pupil increase what's called the depth of focus. And the depth of focus means the distance of the object can be changed, but the image is still focused on the retina without accommodation. So like this. Here the pupil is dilated and here the pupil is constricted. Look for this. This is the depth of the focus and this is the depth of focus. Here no depth for the focus, but here you have a depth for the focus. In this condition you can change the object to a point near to the eye or more far away from the eye, and still the image is formed in what? On the retina or present in the retina, and you see it clear. So the pupillary constriction improve or increase what's meant by depth of focus. So the function of the iris, 4 main functions. Number 1, prevent falling or absorb any light falling on it, except those passing through the pupil. Number 2, regulate the amount of light entering the eye by regulating the size of the pupil. Number 3, prevent the spherical and chromatic aberrations. And finally, the constriction of the pupil, increase the depth of focus. The second part of the of the middle layer, this is the ciliary muscle. Ciliary muscle is important for accommodation. I will discuss this later on. Number 2, the ciliary process secrete an aqueous humor in the posterior chamber and give attachment for the suspensory ligament of the lens. Okay, this is the ciliary muscle or the ciliary body. What about the choroid? The choroid is not avascular, it is avascular, or it is vascular layer, which provide the blood supply for the eye, and the pressure inside the vessel will maintain the intraocular pressure. Also, it contains a melanin pigment which absorbs the light and prevent reflection of the light in the eyeball, and this is prevent what's called glare or sense of glare or glaring of vision. It prevents glaring of the like this. This is the glaring. Okay, this is the function of what? Of the choroid. What about the last refractive media in our eye? This is the crystalline lens or the lens. You know, it is avascular, no blood vessels, avascular transparent biconvex elastic lens, as we can see here, consists of lens fibers and capsule. Lens fibers and the capsule. What is the cause for its transparency? Like the cornea, uniform arrangement of the lens fibers, absence of blood vessels, dehydration by active process, and consistency of its chemical or the chemical composition of its protein content, and also the refractive medium or index of these layers or materials is equal or the same. This is the causes for what? For the transparency of the lens. What about the function of the lens? The function of the lens, number 1, it provides 30% of the total refractive power of the eye. So it provides about 20 diopters. Okay, and its refractive index is about 1.4. Number 2, it protects the retina by absorbing any ultraviolet rays passing through it. But the last function is what? Is accommodation. It provides what's meant by accommodation to near vision. What's meant by accommodation to near vision? Accommodation to near vision means the lens can increase its power during the near vision, and increase its power from 20 diopter to 32 diopters, okay, during near vision, to allow the falling of the image on what? On the retina. Again, look for this. This is here this the ciliary muscle relaxed and the suspensory ligament are stretched. So what? So the lens is less convex, but when the ciliary muscle contracts, okay, the suspensory ligament or zenular fibers will relax, and this will increase, okay, the convexity of the lens or increase its power. Okay, this is the function of the lens. So the function of lens, two or three functions: refractive medium, number 2, accommodation, number 3, absorb ultraviolet rays. What's meant by range of accommodation? Range of accommodation means here, okay, this is called the near point or far point. This called far point, and this called the near point. Okay, the near point means the nearest point to the eye with a clear vision, and the far point means the distant point for an object with a clear vision. The distance between the far point and the near point, this called range of accommodation. So the range of accommodation is the distance between the far point and near point. Okay, the near point usually recedes with aging. What's meant by recede with aging? Increase with aging, or become increase or become far away from what? From the eye with what? With aging. What's meant by amplitude or power of accommodation? Power of accommodation means the difference between the power of the lens when the accommodation is relaxed during far vision, and its power when the accommodation is full accommodation or with full power during near vision. Okay, the near point at the age of 30 or of 10 years, The near point is 7 centimeters, and the accommodation or the amplitude accommodation or power of accommodation is about 40 diopters. This means the power of the lens during far point is 20 diopter, but in near point, okay, 34 diopters. The difference between them is 14 diopters. This 14 diopters, this is a power. With the age of 60, the near point increased to 10 or 100 centimeters, and the amplitude of accommodation or power of accommodation is decreased to what? To 1 diopter. Just 1 diopter. What about the abnormality of the lens? This is the last point. Number 1, aphakia means absence of the lens. Number 2, presbyopia. This is all sight. And cataract means opaque lens. And errors of refractions. And errors of refractions means the parallel rays which converge to a point in front of the retina or behind to the retina. Okay. First, aphakia. Aphakia means absence of the lens, and this is maybe congenital or surgically removed, and this treated by intraocular lens. Treated by what? Intraocular lens. What about presbyopia? Presbyopia means failure of accommodation to near vision due to gradual diminution of the lens elasticity with the aging. With what? With the aging. What is the cause for presbyopia? The cause for presbyopia is the loss of elasticity of the lens or sclerosis of the lens or suspensory ligament. Sclerosis of the lens capsule or suspensory ligament or weakness of the ciliary muscle. Okay, this is corrected by a convex lens only. Convex lens. Okay, convex lens during the near vision or what's called reading glasses. We need reading glasses, and these reading glasses are convex or plus or positive lenses. Okay, this is the presbyopia. Cataract means loss of corneal lens transparency. This due to degenerative changes in the lens proteins due to exposure to ultraviolet rays or diabetes or old age. This is called senile cataract due to absence of glutathione. The treatment is to remove the opaque lens and replaced by intraocular lens. This is the cataract. What about the errors of refractions? The errors of refractions means, okay, you should know, number 1, emmetropic eye or normal eye. In the emmetropic eye or normal eye, the parallel rays converge to a focus on the retina. Okay, this is emmetropic. Ametropic means the parallel rays converge to a point in front of the retina or behind the retina. In front or behind. Okay, this is emmetropic, and this is ametropic. Ametropic in front or behind the retina. We have a lot of errors of refractions. Number 1, myopia. Myopia is a condition in which the parallel rays converge to a point in front of the retina. This means, or this is caused by abnormally long eyeball, so the retina will go away from the lens, and occasionally it may be to a highly abnormal greater curvature of the cornea or the lens, so it increases its power. The problem here in myopia is not to see the near object. The patient with short sight or myopia sees a near object, like the letters here, but he cannot see the far object. Okay, because when he look for the far object, the parallel rays will converge to a point in front of the retina. To be corrected, you need a minus lenses or concave lenses to bring the image to a point on what? On the retina. So you need to correct by a biconcave or divergent lens. Okay, this is the myopia. What about hypermetropia? Hypermetropia or long sight is a condition in which the parallel rays converge to a point behind the retina. Converge to what? To a point behind the retina. Behind the retina, this is due to abnormally short eyeball or abnormally small curvature or low refractive power of the cornea or the lens. It is corrected by a convex lens or convergent lens or plus lenses. He cannot see the near object like this, okay, but see well the far object, okay, and is corrected by a convex lens, okay, or positive lenses. Okay, this is a way for correction. The last errors, this astigmatism. Astigmatism means the curvature of the cornea is not the same in all planes. What we mean? So any light rays fall on the eye are not focused in one focus, or not converge to one focus on the retina. Some rays in one plane are focused on the retina, while the others not. Not means they are converged to a point in front of the retina or behind the retina. This will cause blurring of vision, and this corrected by what's called cylindrical lenses, not spherical lenses. Okay, it is corrected by cylindrical lenses, and when we put the cylindrical lenses, its longitudinal axis must be perpendicular to the plane to be corrected. Okay, like this. Okay, this is here we have two plane, the yellow plane and the green plane. The yellow plane converge to the retina, but the green behind the retina. So we showed this a cylindrical lens, part of cylinder, okay, and this is the perpendicular axis. The axis of the cylindrical lens is perpendicular to the plane. This is a plane, and this is the axis of the cylinder. To correct this plane, okay, to bring, okay, the axis to be fall with the same or with the other axis on what, on the retina. So you need, for correction of astigmatism, you need, don't forget, you need what? You need cylindrical lenses. Dear student, finally, I would like to thank you, okay, too much for the for listening to my lectures, and see you inshallah bismillah in the next lectures. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.